I am 22 years old, and I am a lifelong gamer. Starting with inheriting my older siblings' things from Super Mario N64 and Pokemon Red on the Game Boy Color, graduating to consoles playing Shrek 2 and the original Star Wars Battlefront on the PS2. Then, getting my first AAA titles like Call of Duty, NBA 2K, Madden, so on and so forth. Gaming was my first real love before YouTube, but lately, as of the last couple of years, I don't feel like my love has been properly reciprocated, to rampant microtransactions and monetizing earnable in-game content by making them nearly impossible to earn naturally. Here, I am going to go over some of my favorite games, franchises, and one-offs to tell you why I think gaming has factually declined in customer value, as this is a business at its core. But I will also come around to tell you why I think this is okay. Gaming will not die, and in fact, may be better for it. Anybody on YouTube knows the game that practically birthed the asim horror genre into the mainstream, whether you know it or not. Friday the 13th, the game produced by Gun Media. 7 survivors versus one uber-powerful and surprisingly stealthy killer, Jason Voorhees. The survivors must work together to fend off, hide, and escape from Jason through a multitude of ways. Calling the police, fixing a boat or a car, outlasting the timer, or in an undisclosed win condition from the devs, you can even kill Jason as a survivor, through a relatively complex, albeit sensical manner if you are familiar with the movies. Also releasing multiple maps, characters, and Jason variations, all for free. This game was an unheard of value, retailing at just $15 and exploded onto the scene in mid-2017, peaking with over 16,000 unique players on Steam alone in April 2017. On top of this, over its 4-year run before licensing issues, the team released a total of 10 DLC packs, 9 of which were completely cosmetic and non-gameplay affecting, also all $3 or less. The other, a variation of Jason awarded to those who contributed to a certain Kickstarter tier that was actually designed by Tom Savini, the lead makeup and prosthetics designer from the movies, baking in more value to those fans of the original IP. Raising development money, all for a single-player mode in the game that was released in good standing with the community, despite not hitting the fundraising goal. For less than $42 all in, you have access to every single thing the game has to offer. On the contrary side, Gun Media, the same exact company, released another asymmetrical horror game about a year ago. This time, with proper licensing, Texas Chainsaw Massacre the game, retailing at $40, nearly the price of the entire previous game and DLC combined. Despite this, Gun had another explosive entry into the genre, stating that they had 4 million unique players in the first month of the game's release. For reference, 2 of the biggest games this year, Helldivers 2 and College Football 25, had 274,000 on Steam for the former and 5 million copies sold for the latter. Texas Chainsaw's numbers were also helped by releasing on Xbox Game Pass, making it widely available for the paying subscribers of the service at no extra cost. But by February, the average player count on Steam dropped to less than 700 players, while still being free on the Game Pass. In 6 months, the game lost more than 99% of their original players. But why is this? There's plenty of discourse online about this, people who play Survivors saying the devs made a lot of balancing mistakes with killers, while those who play killers say the same exact thing about Survivors. Meanwhile, you find players in the middle saying changing the formula from 7 versus 1 to 4 versus 3, but I believe there's something else to blame. These are all maybe issues with the game, but I think they are all severely exasperated by something else. Balancing issues, curves to different gameplay can all have a negative effect on retaining players, but not this severely. When you consider the base game price being almost as much as all the content released over 4 years of their previous title, Gun has also released 3 times the amount of purchasable content in less than a year with 27 paid DLC, with starting prices for cosmetic items being the same as their most expensive for Friday, but that's not all. They paywalled new characters with completely different playstyles. 5 characters all being $10 a piece, meaning if you were to buy all of them, you're paying 25% more than the base price of the game, just to have the same gameplay opportunities as people willing to spend the money. These characters fundamentally change the core gameplay, which isn't inherently bad. There's something to be said about keeping a game fresh, for sure, but not at a higher price point than the game itself. And if you add in the cosmetic items, you are up to a whopping $200 of investment, while the free content schedule is 1 expansion of a map every 6 months. I am all for supporting developers and producers of games, but not at the expense of the quality and progression of the game. You can't convince me that 2 paid content packs a month in return for 1 mainline addition for the health of the game makes sense. There is a proper ratio, and that ratio will be different with everybody. But the stats don't lie. A game with historical release and endless potential for a company of Gun's size has been fumbled and died in 6 months as a result. While the scene I've painted with Gun is not exactly a pretty or charitable one, personally, I view them as a smaller company that's taken a misstep after looking at the landscape around them. Or more plainly, their recent instance is bad, but as I implied with Friday the 13th, they have developed a game while providing value in mind, not trying to extract as much value out of their player base as monetarily possible, and they don't have a history of anti-consumer practices. But there is a whole genre of games that has made this money squeeze their entire business model, making yearly releases full of microtransactions, deflating the in-game value of these purchases, hiding the odds on in-game packs or loot boxes, and has one of the largest IP-embedded fan bases in all of gaming. Sports games, and specifically I'll cover the one that I have the most experience in, NBA 2K. NBA 2K is the penultimate basketball video game and has been now for the 26th year in a row. For a long time, this was very, very well deserved. Major graphical and AI improvements, adding in modes like My GM where you can be the general manager of your favorite team, allowing you to clash past, present, and future stars all together in one game mode. But we're not talking about that today. Today we're going to talk about their flagship game mode, My Career, and zoning in on the last 11 iterations over the last 11 years. This is because of a new feature added to the mode, the Park and Rec Center, allowing you to play online with your created player against other people. With this came a change in how you upgraded your character for this mode. Previously, while it was in an offline mode, where your play in-game gave you skill points and was determined by performance, they added a new currency for this online-only mode, eventually doing away with skill points entirely. While this might seem like a surface-level change to those unaware, this started a dangerous and downright predatory and anti-consumer practice that runs rampant in recent iterations of the game: microtransactions. The following statistics are pulled from a YouTube video from former 2K YouTuber Agent Zero. As with the servers pulled offline after 2 years of service, you can no longer play or go on to 2K directly to look up the prices and amounts for microtransactions in the game, further back than 2K22 as of writing. In 2012, NBA 2K decided to make VC purchasable with real-life dollars, with one pack of 10,000 VC costing $3. The next year for the next game, they added 2 packs, 5,000 VC for $2 and 50,000 for $10, making that same 10,000 from the year before 33% more expensive, and encouraging you to spend 5x the money on the bigger package for a better value. Jumping forward 2 years to NBA 2K16, you can see VC getting about 30% more expensive yet again via giving you less VC for the same dollar amount, being 35,000 VC for that same $10, 15,000 less than just 2 years ago. From here, for the next 6 years, the prices of all VC packs have stayed the same, in America at least, but this is where the real problematic company behavior comes in. 2K has also artificially deflated the value of VC by raising the currency needed to upgrade, get cosmetics, boosts, etc. While this is a complicated math problem due to the fact that every attribute costs a different amount, meaning the total VC it takes to upgrade a player differs from build to build, to mitigate this, I am again borrowing from that same Agent Zero video where he uses another famous YouTuber series who also makes the same build every year to extrapolate what these changes in VC cost are over the years. Starting in 2K13, it cost you 65,000 VC to upgrade to an 85 or an 86 overall, up to 100,000 the next year, 165K in the year after that. In the 20-teens, this peaked at 190,000 VC in 2K19, and by my calculations using Agent's method, up to a whopping 206%, a 300% increase in 11 years, or put simply, costing 27% more VC every single year since inception. But remember, that's only to an 85, not a 99 overall, the max. From just 2K17 to 2K22, it took an 87% increase in VC prices, from 240,000 in 17 to 450,000 in 22. These stats are incredibly hard to calculate it without watching like 300 videos, so that's as good as we're going to get here. But at the same time, they did try to lessen the VC you would actually get from the game, cutting the amount earned from a game in half from 2K16 to 17, but would return these earnings to their previous levels after community backlash. But to put into perspective how bad this is even with the reverted earnings, in 2K22, a fully upgraded build costing 450,000 VC and earning about 1,300 VC per game on the max game length, you'd earn 106,000 VC in a season, meaning it would take 4.5 seasons or 369 48-minute games to earn a fully upgraded player no money spent, or a few card swipes of $170 of microtransactions to bypass all of that. All of this is to say that games are a product, the same way this video is a product, and for me to make money on it, the video needs to provide value. The same should go for games. But with 2K and sports games in general, it seems like the extraction of value is again paramount. But sports games have licensing deals for the intellectual property that they're affiliated with their leagues. What about an original IP? One of my most beloved, most purchased, most played, and frankly one of the most iconic game franchises of all time, Halo. To me, Halo, and more specifically Bungie-made Halo games, are to gaming as the 90s Bulls are to basketball. They came in and destroyed the competition like nobody had ever seen before, with 3 consecutive game releases setting records, with the third installment, and thought to be the last, becoming the highest grossing American entertainment product in 2007. Bungie decided to call it quits, but not before Microsoft, their parent company funding them, waved a contract in their face, reminding them they had 2 more games contracted to be made. So Bungie decided to drop those 2 more installments in back-to-back years, selling more than 16 million copies of these games, completing a 5-game stretch of greatness spanning almost a full decade, before selling the IP to Microsoft and moving on to create a little-known game called Destiny. With the sale of the IP, Halo would live on. But similarly to Jordan on the Wizards, it would never be the same and would never live up to its past glory. The first 5 mainline Halo games were lightning in a bottle, captured and harnessed in a lab, and put out as a fully complete, relatively non-buggy, and original stories. This cannot be said about the new company Microsoft employed, 343 Industries. 343 had good intentions, and have had some respectable attempts, having made 4 games of their own. And their sales numbers look honestly rather amazing, but for the most part, this is all. In 2012, the world got its first 343 Halo game, Halo 4, a direct continuation of the mainline character, Master Chief's story. Through their dialogue and cutscenes, they were able to humanize Chief, give him more emotional attachment to his AI companion that had helped him save humanity, and ultimately forcing her to sacrifice herself to save him and humanity once more, and leaving the door wide open on the question, what is next for the Master Chief? Narratively, I found this extremely compelling, but 343 wanted their Halos to feel and look like a 343 game, not like they were copying something they couldn't do as well as Bungie. This is on its own, again, respectable, but when you're inheriting a legendary franchise such as Halo, there are things that are undeniably Halo and must be followed to avoid tonal dissonance and trampling on storied history. This is where 343 faltered and continue to do so until present day. In Halo 4, Master Chief is different in the fact that he was previously a little bit more of a caricature, known for one-liners like,
"Wake me when you need me." Thought I'd try shooting my way out. Mix things up a little.
The Chief being more of a dynamic character was controversial, but I personally find that it makes Chief even more relatable. There is a sense of pride, honor, and duty when defending your way of life. But it is never as simple as just being a soldier, and Halo 4 exemplifies this well whilst keeping respect for the relationship. He doesn't get overly emotional or do anything out of character, but make him feel more like a real human soldier rather than the one-track-minded robotic soldier of the past, a natural progression for a career military personnel. Past this though, the environment, art direction, and specific story beats reintroduced in this next segment of the franchise did trample on a lot of history of Halo, and the things that made Halo Halo. From changing how iconic weapons looked, sounded, and even functioned, to the actual environment of the levels you play in, and even the enemies you're defending the human race from and how they function. Halo was always known for having a chess-like combat system, where certain enemies have certain strengths and characteristics. grunts being, well, cannon fodder, less accurate, using less powerful weapons, usually led by a stronger, smarter unit, the elite or the brute. In Halo 4, everything, even the weaker units, are a deathmatch. From stronger tracking to making lead units faster and less predictable with their movement, and sped up one-shot attacks, changing the chess match of combat to a long-range waiting game where you slowly pick off enemies from afar. The fluidity was gone from almost all encounters, forcing one style of gameplay for realistic success to be ensured. This with the new enemies doubling down on this. Some of the Prometheans being able to teleport away from danger or right up on you to press you with no indication of which will happen, units that can bring already dead enemies back to life, give fellow enemies shields. There is a specific formula rather than an open-ended challenge that yearns for innovation to get through it. 343 also took it upon themselves to bring the background of the story of Halo to the forefront. While defending humanity from aliens, you are constantly on these Halo rings, a series of super weapons left from a thought-to-be extinct species called the Forerunners. These are designed to look almost robotic, metallic but dark, not built for personality but effectiveness and efficiency. In Halo 4, much of the Forerunner architecture looks more human. It's bright, lit up, it almost looks more like an abstract, colorful art set than a rustic, cold, mechanical civilization. They even show you for the first time a real, live flesh and blood Forerunner. While we had seen one in a flashback in a cutscene, you have even more context that still doesn't fit the original art style and takes away a lot of the mystique and intrigue it once had. And this legendary, never-before-seen alien alive by humans, capable of building universe-destroying weaponry, is defeated by a couple of punches and a grenade throw in a quick-time event. Not even real combat. They would keep this framework into Halo 5, having you, instead of playing as the Chief, hunting him down, trying to find Cortana, the AI from the previous games. How, you ask? It is honestly more convoluted than it's worth explaining, but she's back, and she's evil, and working to manipulate Chief and have him fight for her. Pursuing him, you fight the same exact boss multiple times, go through missions where as a super soldier you're sent to do diplomatic negotiations without a single enemy in sight. After the flop of Halo 5, 343 had one more original Halo game, Halo Infinite, the Halo game for the next 20 years, taking a product-based game and turning it into a live service, while still trying to make a single-player mode, Halo's core, compelling, fun, and fixing all the issues that I've been speaking on here. 343 went back to Halo's roots, embracing an open world as the original Halo was envisioned before hardware limitations of the 90s killed the idea. This was done well in some ways, but an utter failure in others. After you're dropped into Zeta Halo, a fully open world, barely any invisible walls, true player freedom with a proper level of guardrails to not stop you from going anywhere, but make it clear what's next in need of doing, but still allowing a player to go, I wonder what's over here, and being able to just do it and actually find hidden secrets. Music cues, skulls, secrets that are valuable to lifetime fans like Red vs. Blue, audio logs to add more context to previous games and to give more backstory to Infinite. The open world also remedies the lack of chess-style gameplay, high ground, low ground, vehicles, bosses, unique weapon variants, and a new form of travel, the grapple hook, allowing you to rappel up surfaces and move faster than ever, adding new elements of tactics and movement. But with this, they still do not have a lot of what had Halo being a top-selling product in the US. There are no big-scaled battles despite the big open world. There are no multi-faction battles where multiple of your enemies fight each other when you come in. There are, in fact, many of the times, enemies are just waiting for you to walk through the door. Whereas in Bungie-made games, they'd be patrolling, sleeping, get ambushed by a different faction. None of this is here. You have the biggest, most beautiful open world in the series with a stale sense of world building. In a writing sense, the most recent 343 Halo is all hook but no substance, no body paragraph. And finally for 343, flashing back to 2014, after the release of Halo 4 but before Halo 5, 343 put out the Master Chief Collection, containing all 6 Halo games, all remastered with better graphics, housing 343's Halo 4 and all 5 Bungie Halos. These were true remasters of the Bungie games and had graphical improvement on 4, but the problem lies in the fact with the first 2 Halos. To avoid spitting in the face of the fanbase, 343 had games available with the old retro graphics and the new anniversary graphics, and letting you switch between them at any point with the press of a button. While an amazing feature and really an unheard of feature, things that sound too good to be true often are. How they accomplish this, at least to my understanding, is having the new graphics run directly over the older graphics, thus allowing the switch with the push of a button. But this means the anniversary graphics are still bound to all the walls, features, and hitboxes of the old game. Meaning in anniversary graphics, there are spots where you're hug and cover, trying to get an angle on an enemy, you get them in your sight, pull the trigger, and your bullet hits an invisible wall, not the enemy. You switch back to the retro graphics, and you're shooting at a wall. On top of this, the anniversary graphics are not upscaled, prettier versions of what already exist. They are 343ified, taking the dark, musty, fear-inducing levels and making them bright, uninteresting, and unsuspenseful environments, making the game easier and unbalanced because of it. Gaming itself has been in a fragile state for a while now. With the events in 2020, we saw a boom like never before, and companies took advantage because games are not to them what they are to us. To gamers, games are a bastion of fun, interesting ideas, an art form to be respected, protected, and cherished. To these companies, games are a billion-dollar industry, one of the most lucrative mediums in the world. Both of these things are true. Games are precious and infinitely valuable. And right now, there is an imbalance in this relationship. Game studios, and specifically big game studios, know they have a cash cow, but they don't realize what makes this industry so valuable. The connection between player to player, the connection from player to content, a real sense of respect from publisher to buyer. The value provided, not the value extracted. If you as a studio provide value and make something legitimately great, or you inherit an IP and respect it and its players, they will buy and you will make money hand over fist. But this is not the world we live in now. Gaming has declined, and it's okay. Because the same market mechanics that have allowed it to get here will eventually, over time, trim the fat of studios or studio practices. AAA games have been losing market share year over year. Indie games, or games from mid-sized studios, have exploded. Palworld, Helldivers 2 before the Sony drama, are all examples of this. Gaming, for better or for worse, is a marketplace, and consumers will determine what is and isn't acceptable. Gamers will stop playing if you don't respect them. Like Gun Interactive, Texas Chainsaw, and 343 Halo Infinite. You will lose millions of sales like NBA 2K has over the years. And the market will correct. Like all things, this comes with time. Gaming will be great again. Devs like YouTuber Pirate Software exist and give amazing games at good prices and respect the players, and in return have succeeded because of it. There is a Pirate Software for every NBA 2K. Teams like Gun can learn from their mistakes and go back to their roots. Studios like 343 have been learning, albeit slow as hell, and all this gives me hope that gaming will be great again. And that's going to be the video. Not all the videos I make from here on out are going to be so doom and gloom and everything's bad and, super overextending towards like a wider lens. I have some plans to do a little bit more zoomed in deep dives of some games and stuff like that, but I wanted to kind of set the tone of like what my opinion is and what my thought process is for at least where I'm at currently. Obviously this stuff can change over time, but I really like how this came out. It's not perfect, but it's definitely a lot better than some of the old stuff I've made, if anybody that's been around from then is even still around. But hopefully I find a whole lot of new people with doing stuff like this, and hopefully I get better at it, and hopefully you guys are along to see it. But that's going to be all from me. Stay wavy, boys.